Chairman, Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, as you know, the People's Republic of China has repeatedly used economic coercion against the United States, our allies, and frankly, non-aligned countries as well. Quite often trying to extract a political advantage or trap a country in a debt trap, literally, in order to have influence over its behavior. That runs very much counter, obviously, to a rules-based international order. So I'm wondering what you and the department are doing to counter those kinds of activities. And frankly, do you have the tools that you need? I know my colleague, Mr. Meeks, and I, along with Young Kim and Amy Barrow of the Foreign Relations Committee, actually have legislation to try and give you more tools to deal with that. So could you tell us how serious you view the problem and what weapons you have and are using and what weapons you might need?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think it's an important question and one we're very focused on. I'd say two things quickly about that. One is we want to make sure that wherever we can, we can create a better alternative for countries as they're looking at investment. Because the main way that China exercises this coercion is, of course, by getting the leverage that comes through investments, including through Belt and Road. So we have done a tremendous amount of work putting together all of the resources and tools in our government, working with allies and partners through the PGI that the President established at the G7, Mineral Securities Partnership, and other things, to be able to effectively channel investment in places where it matters so that we can effectively compete. For us, of course, the secret sauce is the private sector. We're never going to match, and we shouldn't match China dollar for dollar when it comes to state investment. Our job is to be a catalyst of supporter for private sector investment. And as we do that, I think there's no question that most countries would prefer to work with us. However, the other side of this is when you see, exactly as you said, examples of coercion being exercised, using economic leverage that China has to get countries to do things that it wants geopolitically. A good example of that was Lithuania a few years ago. When Lithuania took steps in terms of its relationship with Taiwan that China didn't like, China tried to squeeze Lithuania. We came in, we worked with XM to generate about $600 million in financing as an alternative to the money that Beijing was pulling out or threatening to pull out. We had a defense procurement agreement that DOD put forward that was very helpful as well in going to the Lithuanians. Commerce helped to support and move supply chains away from the PRC. And we mobilized posts around the Indo-Pacific to help Lithuania find new markets for the markets that were being taken away when China was trying to exercise this leverage. So I think there's actually a pretty good model there, a good model actually in the way Australia responded to economic coercion some years ago from China that we can build on. And we really welcome working with you to make sure that not only do we have the tools, but the tools are adequately financed so that we can come in and create the kind of resiliency. Last thing I'd mention is the European Union's also gotten into the game on this in a big way. They have important legislation so that if states are on the receiving end of economic coercion, the EU can come in and support them.
Well, again, we'd like to work with you on that. So if there are specific things that you would need that we could be helpful with, I'd like to know. One quick question, it's probably not enough time, but obviously we've all been intrigued by some of the things I've read, at least, about a potential agreement with Saudi Arabia. Could you give us some sort of overview of where you are in those negotiations and where you hope to be?
So we've been working, this goes back well before October 7th, working with Saudi Arabia and with Israel to pursue normalization between the two countries. This would be a game changer. It would be the first time that Israel has normalized relations with the largest Arab and Muslim country in the world in terms of its significance. It would reshape the region and well beyond. We have pursued the work to try to get that agreement. It requires two things. It requires first some understandings and agreements between the United States and Saudi Arabia on security, on nuclear energy, and on defense cooperation. Those agreements, in principle, are very close to being able to be concluded. Now, of course, we will come to Congress with them when they're ready to be reviewed, but we could be really weeks away from being able to conclude them. However, in order for normalization to proceed, Saudi Arabia has made very clear that even with the agreements between us completed, they have to have two things. They have to have calm in Gaza, and they have to have a credible pathway to a Palestinian state. So we, of course, are working on both. We want to see both. Whether a government in Israel in this moment is able to engage on that basis, I don't know. What I do know is, until now, this has been a hypothetical or a theoretical question for Israel. Assuming we complete the agreements between the United States and Saudi Arabia, that hypothetical or theoretical question becomes a real question that they will have to answer one way or another.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.